had the success of the first two episodes, it seems like, of the Fantasy Football Bros, which I'm dubbing that now. We didn't have a name until then, but this is going to be the episode 3, probably episode 3 and 4 this week. We're looking at a week 8 recap, week 9 look ahead. So first off, I want to say thank you to Kevin, who joined me last week. Kevin, Uncle Daddy, joined me last week. But I want to introduce our co-host this week. It's Tim. Tim from the aptly named Team T. Burke. So thank you, Tim.
Yeah, happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me. I'm starting to realize that my team name needs work as well now. But, unfortunately, you made such a cool logo for it that I feel like I can't change it at this point. I don't know if you noticed, but I just recently updated my logo in the app, so you should be seeing it now.
Oh, that's good. So you host. Oh, I do see that now. Yeah, I guess you're hosting these. Maybe I have to hit up the rest of your website to host the rest of these.
Yeah, if anyone's looking for a hack, I just uploaded to Tumblr and then got the link that way because ESPN has that weird, you need a link address instead of just uploading a photo.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Yahoo's got that advantage over it. You make your own logo, put it up, but ESPN's a little weird like that. But so welcome, Tim. I'm happy to have you.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, first off, we just kind of jump into some news and notes. This is Thursday night. We got a game going on right now as we speak, a little later in the week than we usually go, but so some of these news and notes might be little passe, but I think it's worth going over again, just chatting with my bros and figuring out. So a lot of this is directly related to our fantasy teams. So again, let's just kind of crank through it. I mean, I think we saw scoring up overall this week, and we saw the return of a couple key running backs that we've dubbed RB1s over the last couple of years, of Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara. Those guys are back in full force. CMC showing up, doing something that we haven't seen since LaDainian Tomlinson back in 2005. So that's pretty impressive. I know he gave us a stat line of 18 for 94 and 1 on the ground, 8 for 9 for 55 through the air, and then added 1 passing touchdown, which actually was pretty impressive. I don't know if you saw the play.
I didn't see the play. I was following the stats as the games are going on the fantasy apps, and he basically had the football hat trick of 1, and 1 there. So pretty exciting to see, and I definitely think going forward, McCaffrey and that Shanahan offense is going to be something to watch, and hopefully he might just be nuclear the rest of the season. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm hoping to see something as well. And then we had Alvin Kamara finally get in the end zone, which was awesome. He had 18 for 62 on the ground and then 1 touchdown, and then another 9 for 10 and 96 and 2 through the air. Finally, getting the Taysom Hill thing off his back. Yeah,
being Kamara again, I'm sure a lot of owners are relieved there in that sense. Still a lot of draft capital invested into him, so it's good to see him show up again. I think he overcame a couple injuries earlier in the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think there was a couple nuisance injuries. I think it was the ribs, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it was good to see him start being himself. And then outside of those two studs, we had 4 3-TD games, which is something we don't typically see anymore. But for fantasy purposes, that's amazing. So we had Kamara, which we just talked about. Tony Pollard stepping into his opportunity with Ezekiel Elliott out. Deontay Foreman doing the same, I guess, with CMC vacated and Chuba Hubbard does well down. And then A.J. Brown, I don't know what else to say about that. Maybe we'll see the same thing again going on right now.
Yeah, well, I sure hope not, because I think I'm playing Joe Buck Yourself this week, who basically is starting the entire Eagles offense against me. So for my sake, I hope not. And I do have the game going on the left here. It looks like there was just an Eagles touchdown, but I did not see who actually scored. Oh, here we go. I think it's Miles Sanders. Yep, he's starting him too. So
yep,
there we go.
Yep, and you'll see the points start chipping away.
Yeah, so this will be good to watch my week's demise live right here for you all.
Yep. You can see live reactions to Tim's team getting chipped away. So, Well, we just kind of perfect little segue with A.J. Brown. We have Jalen Hurts, who's obviously on the other end of that ball, chucking it to him. He was throwing the ball all over the place, and oddly enough, not really running it, which is what he's been known for. So, he was all over the place, and he only had 10 rushing yards, but ended up throwing for 4 touchdowns, which was very impressive.
Incredible, yeah. And it's funny. I'm surprised to see them all go. AJ Brown's way. I'm curious about your thoughts on the prospects of like Devonta Smith rest of season 2. Was it just maybe one of those weeks where it's just the way the cookie kind of crumbled and they all went to AJ Brown? Do you see any touchdown upside in Devonta Smith going forward, or how do you feel about that?
Absolutely. I think Devonta Smith is also going to be a prime target. He'll be a wide receiver 2 the rest of the way. But AJ Brown just asserted his dominance last week, and
Sure did,
and I think they went with their triple Batman threat. They keep saying, I got a skinny Batman, a swole Batman, and a fast Batman. Talking about I think Watkins over there too. I think they'll all have great prospects. AJ Brown's going to be a dominant wide receiver 1 the rest of the way, and then I think Devonta Smith will be a aptly serviceable wide receiver 2.
Yep, you got to feel good if you invested in any parts of the Eagles' offense at this point of the season. So go ahead and pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, I mean those 2 wide receivers are looking pretty dynamic, but I mean we'll look at the next 2, and I think there's no 2 wide receivers that are looking more dynamic right now than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle with Tua throwing them the ball.
Unbelievable, and it kills me as a longtime Jets fan to be praising the Dolphins' offense. But my God, is that not the fastest offense in the NFL? I mean, unbelievable. And then obviously too with the running threat. I'm pretty scared. Obviously, I know down in the news later on they just improved. Before the trade deadline on defense too. So that Dolphins team, man, watch out for them. They're definitely making moves.
Yep, absolutely. I think Tyreek Hill's on pace for 2,000 yards with a 17-game season. So
I admittedly didn't see that coming pre-draft. I thought he'd take a little bit of a dip, coming from the Chiefs to the Dolphins, but just I guess a testament to the talent. Sometimes they say you just got to bet on the talent and not the landing spot.
Yeah, he can get open.
Yes, sir.
Yep, and then the joke about it is, well, what will Kyler do on a Call of Duty launch week? And I think he silenced some of the critics with the top five performance. So apparently able to get his COD team going as well as his real life team. So hopefully better days are ahead for the Cardinals. We talked about it last week, the return of DeAndre Hopkins and what we saw with that. Commanding another 10 targets, showing up right out of the gate, and he did it again.
Yeah, it's like all these former fantasy studs are like rising back to the top again with like your Kamaras and your McCaffreys and your Hopkins. I don't have a lot of Hopkins stock. I was just kind of out the season. I didn't want to wait on him to get healthy. And who knows how he was going to be when he came back. I'm sorry, he was suspended. So either way, I didn't want to pay the draft capital that was kind of the ADP, but. Man, I'm kind of regretting it now because, what did he have, like 13, 14 targets now, two weeks in a row. Pretty incredible. So they're feeding him, and he seems hungry.
Yep, right now I think he's the wide receiver 1. So.
Yeah. So a huge injection to a lot of rosters out there for people that have been sitting on him. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine we got a couple 7-1 teams or whatever it may be that all of a sudden get Hopkins back. It's going to be pretty impressive.
Who's the Hopkins leader in our league? I'm curious.
Went to the Mud Dogs, Uncle Daddy. We talked about that last week.
Well done, sir. Guy's a visionary. Yeah. And he is doing pretty good, I think, too. So now all of a sudden he gets Hopkins back. Oh, boy.
Yep, right now he's the leader of our division, and he's got a number 1 seed in a bye right now as we speak. So we'll see. We'll see. Last little bit of, non-trade related news, because we did have the trade deadline that passed yesterday afternoon, was what the implications of Tom Brady's divorce being final and what did that take to him. I mean, that's kind of more of a satirical, tip. What do you think on that, Tim?
Yeah, actually, I think this is, if anything, this might be the top league news. I mean, Brady's probably sees blood in the water now. He's got something more approved than ever. And I think, I know when I get in a fight with my wife, all I want to do is, prove that I was right. And, I'm sure it's like, Brady probably magnified times 1,000. So I would be scared to go up against Brady and bet against him right now. But obviously his current performance says otherwise. I don't know, man. I know it's a joke, but I do love that narrative. And I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden, he goes on fire. So I have him in one league, and I've been close to dropping him, but I feel like every time in my life I've ever bet against Brady, it's came back and bit me in the ass. So I feel like
Absolutely.
I'm just another week or two. How about you? What do you think about it?
No, as a Jets fan, like you said before, it's tough to root for the always rooting against the Dolphins and the Patriots here. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't know if it's so much of a storyline, but I think you'll get some of the just push it away, and just get back to football.
Absolutely. We have to talk about it, though. Obviously, it's football news.
Yep, football-related news for sure. But then again, I guess the big thing here, and Tim and I, we kind of pushed off our chat a little bit to kind of digest the trade deadline and of course scheduling-related stuff too. But we had a lot of moves. Most of the time, the NBA, I was going to say the NFL trade deadline is not like the NBA deadline, where we have all these major moves. But it seemed like there was a lot of teams that were active. I mean, there was a couple. I'm looking at least half a dozen major trades that have fantasy implications some way or another. So I guess we're going to rip through those real quick. I don't want to spend too much time. We got a lot of other fun stuff going on. But, I guess the first one I'm looking at is Kadarius Toney of the Chiefs, maybe trying to make some sense of that wide receiver core.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney. I think I like it, like for like an NFL move. Kadarius Toney seems, from what we saw in like limited sample sizes, like super freakish athlete, a lot of speed, has maybe superstar upside. I don't know. We never totally saw it in the Giants. And yeah, so I picked him up, I think, when he first came on the waiver wire. And I think I got kind of desperate, and I think I needed to make a move. So I ended up dropping him for somebody else. But, aside from everything kind of looking good on paper, I just got to say, with what I've seen with the Chiefs wide receivers this season, like it's really hard to trust anyone consistently throwing up big numbers each week. So yeah, I'm kind of like lukewarm on Kadarius Toney. You can't argue the upside's there. If I had the roster spot to kind of sit on him and see what happens, I think it's like definitely a good person to maybe stash for a week or two and kind of see how things pan out. Obviously, you got to figure he's got to get used to the offense a little bit and learn the playbook. So, there's going to be somewhat of a delay there, and then whatever week that brings us to in the regular fantasy season. So, I think if you have the time where you can wait to see what happens with them, it definitely could be a down the line league winning move, or not so much. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at on it. How about you?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a league winning move. I think it's kind of more of a lateral move from a fantasy perspective. I think from real life football, I think he helps the Chiefs. I think the Giants could have used him, but I think he was part of the previous regime, and they're just ready to kind of move on with that. I don't think it makes too much of a difference from that fantasy perspective. I think Pat Mahomes is just passing the ball around, and the only one that the consistency is there is Kelce.
Yeah.
So I think from a dynasty perspective, it might be a little bit more interesting. Us as a redraft league, I think it has zero implications, and I'm honestly not even sure if it's worth a roster in this one. We're as a 10-man league, so it's just kind of more of a real life interesting move. And again, as a homer New York team, it's like what are the Giants trying to really do?
Yeah. Who do you think? Aside, obviously, Kelce is the number one target, but do you think Toney is the best wide receiver on the Chiefs at the moment?
We haven't really seen his talent, like you had said. He's supposed to be a freak athlete. Juju had a great week. MVS, he can go up and down. I think it's more of a statement to Sky Moore. I think they had a lot of hope for him to take over that. And if they haven't seen that so far in the first 7-8 weeks of the season, plus training camp, that might be why they brought Toney in. Or maybe it's because those other two guys I mentioned before are on 1-year deals, and they're just looking to the future, and they could say, "Hey, I can run both these guys on the outside."
Yeah.
So the next big move, which actually I think is far more important for fantasy, is T.J. Hockenson to the Vikings. And I don't know if it's fantasy relevant because of the move or the player. I think it's more just because of the position and how abysmal the tight end fantasy landscape is. But I think it's more of a lateral move for him. Fantasy, he just has to be started regardless. The Lions are having a fire sale.
Yeah, and show me a tight end that gets 4 targets, 4 or 5 targets a week, and I'll show you a top 12 tight end in the NFL, with a touchdown upside. So, like you said, definitely, he's definitely worth starting. I think it might be a little bit of a bump in the right direction for Hockenson. Kirk Cousins slings the ball around quite a bit. I think it hurts Thielen a little bit if anyone's consistently starting him. And obviously it doesn't do much for the Lions offense, but yeah, I'm not shouting from a mountain how excited I am about it, but I like the move for the Vikings. I definitely think it was an upgrade from Irv Smith. And yeah, Hawkinson's definitely a good, player athletically and stuff. So,
and I'm not sure how much it is tied to, you mentioned Irv Smith. I think he's out for like 6 to 8 weeks at this point in time with some sort of injury. I didn't really research it too much because it's Irv Smith, but
yeah, he was a guy.
He was part of those Alabama teams that were stacked, right? In college there was a lot of that, but yeah. So the next move we have Claypool over to the Bears. Chase Claypool from the Steelers over to the Bears. I think as kind of described the first two. I think it's more of just a move. It makes more of a sense from a fantasy. Makes more sense from a real life NFL than a fantasy.
Dude, I hate Chase Claypool, man. I after his first breakout season, the next year I thought he was going at a really good price, bought into him in a lot of leagues, and it was like it's just been total trash from here on out. I think he's got good, I keep feeling that we're talking about these guys that like athletically seem really good on paper, but yeah, I don't know. He didn't really do anything in the last couple seasons on the Steelers that made me that excited. Bears literally have nobody to throw the ball to beyond Mooney. They don't throw the ball a whole hell of a lot. So as far as like Claypool's fantasy prospects himself, I don't think like I'm like rushing to the waiver wire to grab him. But I think it definitely, like you said, makes sense for the Bears as a NFL team to do that and kind of give what's his name
Fields. It's beneficial to Fields for his development.
Fields, give Fields another weapon and safety blanket to throw the ball to. So
yeah, it gives him another big body on the outside. Yeah, Claypool's a big dude. The next one we're talking about actually, which you mentioned before, which is Bradley Chubb to the Dolphins. I know that's more on the defensive side. We don't necessarily look at those players on the defense too much with our non-DST related non-IDP players, but that has huge fantasy implications because that Dolphins defense was not looking good, and it was actually pretty good for them to pad the numbers, right? Bad defense, good offense, just sling it around. I think he's going to solidify that the middle of that defense a lot.
Absolutely. The bad defense, good offense thing. I definitely think it's a noticeable trend, but you can also make the reverse argument too that if the defense gets off the field sooner, then the offense is on the field longer. So maybe could be a move in that direction. But overall, yeah, this Dolphins team is definitely on the upswing. I know that's not the only move they made at the trade deadline here, but as a Jets fan, I'm getting pretty terrified of this Miami team. The more the weeks go by here and they put up crazy numbers.
Yeah, they did the wide receiver. I'm sorry, they did the running back swap over there. You kind of mentioned that. So they got Jeff Wilson from the 49ers, but then shipped out Chase Edmonds to the Broncos. So they made a couple other moves.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm really surprised about, the usage of Chase Edmonds. I was kind of excited about him prior to the draft. I thought he was going to, get one of these guys that gets maybe, 5, 6, 7 targets a game, maybe like 8 to 10 carries, and, have maybe be like an okay flex play that's consistent every week and then have the upside if, the number one back goes down or something to, be the bell cow. But he's never really been that guy on any team he's been in. He's always kind of been that, pass catching, third down kind of guy. But I feel like with this coaching staff, he wasn't even really that for the Dolphins. So I don't know really what happened there, but glad to see him, go on to Denver and get another opportunity there and maybe hopefully be a little bit more used there because they're hurting as well.
He joins a crowded backfield back over there, but like you had said, the narrative for Chase Edmonds is very similar to what it was last year too in Arizona. Like, hey, we want this guy to be the guy, and then the other guy supplanted him, took over. James Conner had a great year last year. Let's not talk about him this year. But and then the same thing, Raheem Mostert just kind of stepping over him, and then I guess I don't know what we got going on with McDaniels trying to reassemble the 49ers backfield east.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. The Jeff Wilson thing, I guess, just call it, a depth move. I don't really have anything more.
Yeah, I think it's just familiarity, and then they just, with CMC kind of going over there too, they were looking to ship him out. So yeah. I thought it made sense for I don't know, again, more of a football related move.
I was actually sorry, just going back to the Jeff Wilson thing. I was a little surprised that the Niners shipped out Jeff Wilson because, I think most people would consider Christian McCaffrey a little bit, maybe injury prone. And I thought it would be important to have, quality back behind him now. And I'm trying to think, what is it, like the rookie they have?
They got two rookies, but then they have Elijah Mitchell coming back.
Oh, Mitchell is coming back. Okay.
Yeah, well, he should be back next week, or I think he's eligible to come back next week off the IR. And but he's injury prone himself.
Yeah. I thought he was done for the season, but then I guess that makes sense there.
Yeah, Mitchell should be coming back, and then they have two rookies themselves. I forget exactly their names, but they have the depth.
Yeah, shows how good they've been this season.
Yeah, and how good of podcasters we are.
Yeah, right. Hey, I mean, I can't know fourth string running backs right now. If it was my full time job, maybe.
Absolutely. we need support. We're working on that, But there was only I guess two more moves that really made any sense. The one that was most surprising I actually saw was this Ridley to the Jaguars. No one even heard of Ridley for the past 2 years.
We're talking about Calvin Ridley?
Yeah, Calvin Ridley. Sorry, I should have been.
Remember that guy?
Yeah, exactly. This guy, first round talent. Supposed to be semi-generational, right, to replace Julio Jones, right?
Yeah.
I guess the ironic part is send him over to the Jags, which is I didn't realize it at first, but I found out that's the game that he actually bet on. He bet on the Falcons to beat the Jags, so that's what got him in all this trouble.
I thought that was a joke in the show notes here.
No. It's funny is, in doing a little bit of research, like ironically, that was the game he got busted for. So he bet against the Jags, and they brought him on board. So we'll see how that pans out for 2023. Get this guy on the field, maybe.
Who do you? I guess that's maybe. Well, I guess first of all is like, does he have anything left in the tank? Right.
Right.
He hasn't played in 2 seasons, is it?
Almost 2 full seasons, yeah.
Yes, and then so I don't know. I guess best case scenario, maybe he's fresh. He's got some fuel left. So, do you think he's going to be any good? Do you think it hurts Christian Kirk? Do you think it helps the offense? It helps Christian Kirk?
I don't know. I don't know what the Jaguars are doing. I think it's just another piece. I think they're just trying to collect Infinity Stones.
Yeah, that's a great analogy there. I like that.
But it's not really working out for him. And the move that I actually thought was kind of the most interesting was I had Nyheim Hines going to the Bills and swapping with Zach Moss back to Indy. I thought this was pretty interesting because you swapped different style backs, right? And almost to mimic the back that you have, right? You swapped the bruiser Zach Moss, sending him over to back up Jonathan Taylor, who's more of the same style, and then you have Devin Singletary, who's now going to go ahead and get backed up by Nyheim Hines, more of a smaller scat type back, although Devin Singletary has been running the ball very, very well. They just have, shift. They kind of go with the same type rather than the complementary 1A, 1B back.
It's funny. I feel like Josh Allen is their bruising back in Buffalo there. I don't know. I think my view on it, my reaction was, Nyheim Hines in Indy is going to be Nyheim Hines in Buffalo in terms of output. I don't know. Maybe if anything, maybe I think it's probably a little bit of a positive bump for him, just because of more opportunities to be close to the end zone and the offense, just generally putting more output than Indy was. So I guess it's just a question of how much are they going to use him, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. But as you kind of put out, is that just the ball goes the way of Josh Allen.
Yeah.
So all right, cool. I think that just kind of goes through most of the real NFL trades that we went through.
I'd also like to talk about one quick trade deadline that did not happen that I was really surprised about.
Oh yeah, absolutely, sure.
It was very. I was really closely watching if Kareem Hunt was going to be dealt. I was hoping that he was going to actually. The Jets signed James Robinson. I've always liked him. I'm a fan of him. But I was really hoping prior to that they were going to take Kareem Hunt. I think he's definitely more of a dynamic back than Robinson, and maybe a diet Breece Hall, if you will. But yeah, surprised to see that the Browns, just sat on him and didn't make a move there. So, clearly they're content with where they are. They have the depth for Chubb and, the extra weapon in Hunt. But yeah, was excited for him to maybe go somewhere where he could have, done a lot more damage than he already is.
Yeah, that's the one we talked about last week when I talked with Kevin. That's the one we were really most interested in seeing, that really had the most fantasy implications. I mean, as we kind of talked about, there was some interesting NFL moves, but none of them were really too fantasy relevant as far as major moves. I mean, the Christian McCaffrey one was the big one, and we were kind of late to the show on that, so we kind of just barely touched upon it last week. But this, that was the big one. We were kind of waiting for it. Everyone was holding their breath and saying that he would make a huge difference on a contender, whether it been, going over to the Rams to try to combat that CMC move to the 49ers, or just like you had said, kind of going to get a Walmart Breece Hall version.
Yeah, I'll take it, But no move there. So I guess it's just going to be more of the same with Kareem Hunt himself. And that Browns offense is chugging. That's one of the biggest surprises of the season to me is they're just crushing people week in and week out. And I'm sorry, what is the Browns quarterback's name? He's been in the league forever.
Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett, man, just showing up out of nowhere and showing that he's a franchise quarterback and, being a game manager and just getting the job done. You can't really ask for more than that as a Browns fan. And you have Deshaun Watson waiting in the wings there. So a lot of positive things in the horizon for them. But I'd be pretty excited if I was a Cleveland fan right now.
Yeah, things are on the positive swing, I guess, after all the abysmal quarterback runs that they've had. Not that Jacoby Brissett's their savior by any means, but I guess he's understanding what his role is on this team. Same way he did in Indy, the same way he has in a couple other spots throughout the league. So he's been the consummate step in and be a backup or at least a serviceable game manager. So, but week 13, Watson comes back.
I'm curious if they're doing as well as they're doing. Like, is it going to be a hard move for them to just throw Watson in there?
They already said they were. Yeah, they already said the first week he's eligible, he's back in there. So, the Jacoby, thanks for the support. We are where we are, but this is our guy.
I hope he gets paid and goes somewhere next season at least.
We'll see.
Just for his sake, just for a job well done, sir.
Yeah, get a couple bonuses or whatever it is that's part of his contract, and then maybe just sail out to the sunset. Get some more Subway commercials under his belt.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. So we'll touch on some more real fantasy football related stuff. We'll kind of jump right into injuries. Not as crazy as last week. Nothing is earth shattering. Although as we push this podcast off to later in the week, we're finding out some more information. So. We had Ja'Marr Chase pretty much as soon as Kevin and I wrapped, find out that he was going on IR.
I know.
We were like, as soon as we hit the stop button, he texted me right back. He was like, "Oh my God, we missed this one." So it's like, maybe next week we'll figure it out. But that's a big move. That's the most fantasy implications for it, and I think there's going to be some fantasy fallout.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel for Ja'Marr Chase owners, obviously. Unfortunately, I think it's that Bengals offense was really, heating up a little bit, and I think it's just an overall downgrade for the offense. Obviously, Joe Burrow loses his biggest weapon. I think it's, as far as the other receivers go, Higgins and Boyd, I definitely think it helps them. I think it helps Mixon a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, I just don't know if they're going to be moving the ball up and down the field as much. So it's hard to say what the net, impact of it's going to be. But I think for the players that are still there, probably, obviously a little bit of an improvement there. And I know it looked like I was looking at the teams before. Joey Bauer, like both of his wide receivers, Higgins and Boyd. So he's got to be salivating a little bit at the lips right now.
Yeah, jumping right in and getting with two top 20 wide receivers. We'll see how that pans out. But there's definitely some more touches to go around. Mixon's got to get going. He's been good. But the points haven't been there. Like if you look at the stat lines, you're like, okay, I don't understand why. I guess he's not getting the touchdowns this year.
Yeah, definitely some positive regression coming from him. I think you got especially if things get stale and they need some kind of spark, maybe you just go back to feeding him a little bit. So he's always been a good back. I think it'll turn around for him this second half.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a couple of Ravens guys that got all dinged up on that game as well. We talked about Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews got the shoulder ankle. That's a lingering injury for him. That's another injury for Team Tim over there.
Add it to the list, man. What's another star going down on my team? You just add it to the list. So it's obviously frustrating. I've lost Breece Hall for the season. Mike Williams went down. Now I got my stud tight end. But you know what, man? No excuses. It's just next man up. You gotta stay on top of that waiver wire. I picked up Isaiah Likely, I think is his name, the backup. So if Monday comes around and Andrews isn't going, I just plug him in there. But man, this is football. No excuse. People get hurt. It can happen to any player any given week, and you just got to stay active on the waiver wire, make trades, and do your best to stay relevant.
Yep, absolutely. That's the adage of that your championships aren't won on draft day.
Definitely not. But I appreciate you guys, sympathizing for me live on the air last week. That definitely, added a little comfort to.
Oh, we're not completely heartless, but we're not necessarily rooting for you, but we'll feel for you.
Yeah. You put yourself in my shoes for a second, and I appreciate that.
Yep, exactly. But it looks like he'll be back, so he'll be back. You just get a couple weeks, get healthy. Mark Andrews will be back, and he'll be a key part of your playoff run. You just gotta hold it together.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Even Mark Andrews, when he was healthy, has been a little bit of a disappointment, relative to his draft capital. But, you look at that tight end landscape, man, and it's basically Andrews or Kelsey, so I'm never going to not start him 1 week if he's on my roster.
Absolutely. We talked about what Kyle Pitts was supposed to be when we were going through Joey G's team last week and the calamity of insult that was. But yeah, it's those two guys and everybody else. So, there's that second tier of, Goddard, Ertz, and maybe Everett jumped in there this year with the volume over there in Los Angeles. But even that, there's a significant drop off.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts, man. I'm curious how many people last week was the first week that they were just so fed up with his shit and decided to bench him, for God only knows, and then he finally, puts up a decent stat line, on their bench after all these weeks. Like, is there anything more frustrating than that?
I was going to say, it just adds to the frustration.
You gotta love fantasy football. It's supposed to be fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why we do this to ourselves.
I know, man.
But we also had Rashad Bateman go out in that same game with a foot injury, and new news coming out today. It seems like he's going to be done for the season. Which,
yeah, I guess Devin Duvernay, man, fire him up.
Yep. Obviously it's a downgrade for Lamar Jackson. He needed another target, but he's going to get his a little bit. He's been inconsistent as well. I guess the same way with Mark Andrews. Obviously that goes one hand in hand. But Lamar Jackson hasn't been running as much this year either.
Yeah, and you almost got to wonder if somebody over in Baltimore dropped the ball there by, this news comes out this weekend. Maybe they could have signed Chase Claypool or gotten another, ancillary like wide receiver that could have, at least given them a couple more options. But nothing there. So so Lamar Jackson's going to have to, run the ball a little bit more. Mark Andrews might, hopefully, break out the second half a little bit more here, and I don't know, man. I feel pretty good about Devin Duvernay if someone's looking for another wide receiver.
Yeah, that seems to be the pickup that's going to come out of there for sure.
Just a volume alone,
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, is he on the way around? I'm just kidding.
So we also found a little bit of news. Jonathan Taylor missed practice, I think, again today on Thursday. He missed on Wednesday, and I think he missed again on Thursday. I thought it was a little bit of a re-aggravation of the same ankle injury, so I don't know if he's going to be playing this week.
Yeah, this guy's pretty much dead to me. I have him in a couple leagues, and he's just been killing me all season.
He's the curse of the number one pick right now. It's been a couple of years that the number one pick, it's been consensus, you got to get this guy, it's got to be whatever, and it's just sunk whoever had it. So, Jonathan Taylor, get healthy.
Yeah. I think the talent's there. He's banged up. There's no other way to really paint it. I mean, I think this Indianapolis offense is struggling a little bit more than expected. I think a lot of people had high hopes for Michael Pittman. People considering Matt Ryan to be an upgrade at quarterback there, and if nothing's really just panned out. The offensive line really not performing. So I think it's a lot of things. I think Taylor's future is still bright. Maybe he'll take a little bit of a dip, in his draft stock next year, and I think I'll still be in on him, regardless. So let's see if he can at least put something together in the final half here.
Yep, yeah, and again, being in that division, I can't say the Colts are out of it either. So as awful as their team's been, I think they're still kind of in the hunt.
Yeah, what's the Colts record right now? I'm curious.
I think they have the tie, so they might be like the 3-4-1 team or something like that.
Right. God, that sucks.
But relative to the rest of the division, the division, someone's got to win it.
Yeah, they're second in the AFC South right now.
Right. So that doesn't put them out of playoff contention by any means.
No.
And the last little bit we had there was for the Saints. Michael Thomas looks like he might be done for the year too. I'm actually seeing conflicting reports. He's going on IR, but I'm not sure if he's done for the season or not. I saw one place where they said he's done for the season. Someplace else that said they were waiting on a second opinion. So we'll see what happens. But he's going to miss 4 weeks at a minimum.
Sucks to hear, man. I was excited for him. Just a player coming back, this year, and I didn't draft him in a lot of leagues just because I'm more of like a believe it, prove it to me kind of person, which not everybody agrees with that mentality. But I was wrong on him, man. He was doing pretty good early on this season. And yeah, I'm just bummed for the player that, he's hurt again, and I hope he can bounce back and, maybe, I don't know if he stays on the Saints next year or what, but he was,
I don't know what his contract situation is.
What's that? Yeah. And then you got Olave, man, who's just, really established himself there as a superstar wide receiver. So who knows what happens there. But yeah, Michael Thomas, man, it's been a tough go for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a rough couple of years for him, from going from the cream of the crop, best wide receiver in the league to, missing a couple seasons. So it's been a tough run for him, but it's all injury related. So the talent is there. I just, like a lot of these guys, the body breaks down.
Yeah. Your Julio's, all it's the same kind of story. AJ Green, it's like they're amazing. And then all of a sudden the drop off is pretty steep,
They burn out so fast.
It makes me feel like I'm getting older when that shit happens.
We are old.
Yeah.
But, from an NFL perspective, we'd already be out of the league.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm like a 75-year-old man in NFL years.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about how actually some of this waiver stuff too, with regard to Devin Duvernay and how good of a pickup he might be. So I think he's still sitting out there, but we did have waivers run on our standard waiver day for, I guess, Wednesday morning. Big pickup was Josh Palmer. So, with the news coming out of I'm about to say San Diego, but again, I have to go back to Los Angeles.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, I slipped up a couple times with that, but it looks like he might be the number one if Keenan Allen doesn't play again, which is...
Yeah, Herbert's got to throw the ball to somebody, right?
Yep.
Is that me? Did I get him? Yeah.
Yeah, you got him.
Sweet. I just, I'm realizing that now. I had Mike Williams go down, and, my record's not so great, so I guess I just got lucky and was able to snatch him up. So that works really well for me just because I can kind of just have him plugged in there until Mike Williams comes back, and then who knows thereafter. But I was definitely pretty happy to at least put a Band-Aid on that part of my team for the time being. So, I think he's a great daily play this week too. Mm-hmm. That's a great offense. He's going to get a lot of volume, but I think the real winner on that Chargers offense is going to be Austin Eckler. I think that man is going to eat this week, like he has been every week, but more so.
13 catches.
Yeah, it's just get the ball to Eckler and let him do his thing, and he just destroys souls while he's out there. And it's one thing to see his stat line, but if you've had the ability to watch a couple of Chargers games this year and just see what he does, I mean, you can't touch the guy. He's just dancing around the field, and he's just something else to watch, man. So
I mean, I was kind of out on him for a couple of years back, but the last 2 years has been very, very good. He was injury prone. He was a small guy. He was splitting time. The Melvin Gordon situation that going on over there, but it's just wow.
Same thing, man. Yeah, I never really took him, and I'm definitely regretting it this year.
Yep, yep. I mean, and other than that, looks like everyone else is picking up pieces for the 6 teams that are on bye, so it's pretty busy bye week. We'll go over who's out, what's going on in the week look ahead, but the rest of the team just seemed to pick up pieces. There was no real winners or losers from the waiver report. But we just kind of touched upon it. Well, let's take a look at the recap of Week 8. We had a couple closer matchups. Week 7 we had a lot of blowouts. It was only a couple that were within a couple points. But this week, let me go ahead and share my screen here too. We'll get you going up here, Tim.
Sure.
We'll take a look at what's going on. So yeah, we'll jump right in again. Go through I guess some of the highlights of the week. I just want to go shout out to Joey G on his first win. Getting there, man.
Congrats, buddy.
Getting that monkey off the back. Going to 1-7.
Yeah, it's you gotta break the ice and get on the board at some point, man. So if hey, who knows, man? If he wins out the rest of the season, he could definitely still be in the conversation. So just hang in there, buddy.
Wheeling and dealing.
Yes, sir. I see that the guy's still making moves. So clearly, there's some fire left in there. I love that. There's nothing worse than when somebody just checks out and becomes an automatic win for the rest of the league. And I Joey G, much respect to you, my brother, for trying to stay relevant and wheel and deal there, my man.
Yep. So that's a big one there, getting that off. But overall, like we mentioned, I guess NFL scoring's up, so I guess that means fantasy scoring is up, and we had 9 of the 10 teams over 100 points in a non-PPR format. So that's actually a pretty good showing as well.
Yeah, big week. A lot of points scored this week.
Yeah, a lot of points scored. Let me kind of just scroll through these. Yeah, I said almost everyone was up over 100 points. We had quite a few teams, and Tim and myself, who were the top 2 scoring teams, putting up over $145.
Oh baby, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a coincidence why I'm the host this week, or is that
it just happened to work out? You were the big.
I needed that. I was hurting pretty bad, and even this week I'm in trouble. So, like I said, you just got to hang on for your life, man, and then try to make the right calls.
Yep. So I guess we'll just jump through these games one by one, highlight some of the key players. I don't want to spend too much time on it. We're actually already scrolling through the upcoming game as this Thursday game is ticking away over there on Tim's screen. But I guess we had the first matchup was between myself and John, the Housewives and the Scoregasms. We talked about my team putting up another $145 or 146.4 on the back of Jalen Hurts and Tony Pollard getting his opportunity. A lot of the rest of the team looked pretty good. I think everyone was a key performer there.
Yeah, nice performance there. You got to feel good about Tony Pollard. With no Zeke, everyone always knew that he could do some damage without Zeke, and he definitely took full advantage of the opportunity. So I'm glad to see it paid off for you.
Yeah, it's worked out too. I needed some running back help, so he stepped right in there, and I guess my RB2 there is Montgomery, and he's been serviceable, but lackluster. That whole offense has been, and Khalil Herbert's on his heels, but Tony Pollard's a nice breath of fresh air in my RB, slot.
Yeah, I got Montgomery in a couple of leagues, and it's just frustrating. I mean, he'll be healthy, he'll be starting that week, and then it's like you look at the final stat line, and it's like Herbert 99 yards and a freaking touchdown, and it's like, wait, what is going on here? Like, just
make the move at the same time. Yeah.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, just make the move, Bears, and make the move with Khalil Herbert at this point in time. If you think he's the more talented guy, or maybe this is just a function of the new offense trying to run both of guys, but it is super frustrating for fantasy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as far as the NFL team, like that offense is definitely starting to find their groove a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, something's working over there. Yeah. And I don't know, man, you watch the Bears play and he Khalil Herbert just passes the eyeball test relative to, and Montgomery doesn't look terrible, but it's like Herbert just looks explosive, man, every time.
Yeah, the breakaway speed.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's a nice 1-2 punch to have, on a team.
Yep, absolutely. But yep, a good performance for all those guys. John got you a pretty good performance there as well, but just not enough. Like I said, everyone scored over 100 points, or just about 9 out of 10. And you think that that's the kind of a threshold for non-PPR, at least this scoring format. You get the 100 points, you win, right? I mean, most weeks.
Usually.
But not this week.
Yeah.
And I guess that's most frustrating for the next game we're going to look at, which would be, my previous host there, the Mud Dogs, or and the Suck My Ditka. So Kevin and Joey B battling it out, and that's looks like, what is that, 2-point game. So that's a tough loss. 2.66.
Yeah, I was taking a look at that, and just seeing what happened, and I feel like I'm trying to pull up. The app is so much easier to navigate than desktop, but I feel like did he have like Derek Carr put up like 2 points or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell it is a little bit difficult to. If I think there's this box score, I think this jumps right in here, so I can take a look at that too. But yeah, Derek Carr was huge letdown with regard to.
Oh man, that's like 2 more passes or something, and he would have had the points. That sucks.
Yeah, there was a couple of key decisions that we could have made. We'll take a look at that in our first meaningful right decision, wrong decision segment, because last week it was kind of a non-factor. But yeah, 2.66 points.
I don't want to throw salt in the wound, but like, what are we really doing here? Like, isn't that the point of this? Like, we got to make them feel a little bit bad, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I guess we might as well just go right into it at this point in time. And we're looking at the bench. I mean, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. There was points to be had. I mean, we could have had DeAndre Swift, and now I understand why you didn't play.
Yeah, but you talk about a guy with the floor, and maybe you throw Brandon Ayuk in there, thinking he's going to catch at least 4 or 5 passes and get you, maybe like 9 to 10 points.
Yep. And then, and of course, you'd say, hey, Trevor Lawrence getting me 7.8 points is not desirable. But I guess when you compare it to Derek Carr's 1.94, didn't take much.
I agree with that. I mean, if it was me, I would have started Carr against New Orleans. And then the Denver defense is pretty good.
Oh, I think the process is sound. I don't fault the Mud Dogs for any of this, but
it's so easy in hindsight, right? Just looking at the scores and being like, Brian Robinson, huh?
Yep. I mean, personally, I think I might have given Swift the upside move over Brian Robinson, but no one saw the timeshare going Antonio Gibson's way this past week, or whatever it may have been, or at least the point share.
Yeah, it would have been Swift or Pittman for me in that flex spot. But hey, to each his own. He's got a much better record than I do, so I'm not criticizing.
There it is. All right, let's see if I can go back to the full box score without this beating all pissed off.
And who is that? Is that Joey Bauer with the win?
Yeah, that was Joey Bauer with the win over Kevin. So that was a good win for him. And to be honest, I'm not too upset because it chipped away at the Mud Dogs lead.
Yeah, true.
Yep. All right. And the next game we have our new name change after we called them out last week, calling them Christina continuously. So, Brian Cincinnati changing his name here to Joe Buck yourselves. They are our power rankings leader, our point leader, and got away with another win this week.
Guy's on a tear, man. He's just crushing it. He joined last season.
Yeah, joined last season. I think he was the point leader better part of last season, so it brought back some of that competitiveness. But
yeah, I mean, we wanted it to be more competitive, but we didn't want to get our freaking asses kicked, Dave. I mean, couldn't you find somebody a little less better?
Let's playoffs to count. Let's see how we do this year. Yeah. But yeah, and then so that was the Brian Bowl. Brian with a Y versus Brian with an I.
The Brian Bowl, hell yeah. We should have sold that a little bit more. That's brilliant.
I just kind of thought of it in hindsight. I was like, that's also Brian. So
I'll look out for the next one.
That's on the fly. We'll see if we can make an award for that.
Maybe a T-shirt or something.
Come up with something a little more clever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one wasn't as close as we want. But again, it looks more like the newly dubbed Joe Buck yourselves are just continuing to assert their dominance. Jumping right into the next game, we had the T-Birks. We talked about them putting up a $145 plus this week on the back of Christian McCaffrey, huh?
Christian McCaffrey, Foreman. Yeah, I definitely had some guys show up this week, which was very much welcomed. I think it actually ended up being a little bit closer than I thought. The projections were showing me way ahead, and then if you were watching it live, up until the later afternoon games is when I pulled away, I guess. But yeah, man, I was obviously not expecting that out of Foreman. I just needed a guy.
Yep.
And I started Latavius freaking Murray. He scored a touchdown, which is great. But I feel like my team is a house of cards, man. It's very fragile right now, and especially with McCaffrey out. I'm happy to have the win, but I'm definitely not sitting here singing my own praises. I definitely need to, stay diligent at trying to improve a little bit here, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And you as you kind of said, that's on the back of a couple key players. You had Mark Andrews kind of significantly let you down, but on the back of D'Onta Foreman's 3 touchdowns, Kyler Murray's, good performance we talked about. And
Kyler Murray, hold on one second. Kyler Murray, right? Great stat line. Most weeks, if you look at his game log, it's pretty good. Just don't watch it live.
Don't watch his games.
It looks like garbage until while it's happening. So that's just my plight as a Murray owner. But I'm not complaining because even QB is a little rough this year.
Yeah, I have 0 shares of Kyler, but because he was that last guy or in that tier, I have Jalen Hurts on all 3 of my teams. I think they had the similar upside. They had the similar MO, and I just picked the right guy this year. So
that must feel good, man.
It does, but that's not I don't have all positives. I don't always make the right decision. There's plenty of wrong decisions that I've made so far. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely finding myself in a down year where I was wrong about a lot of guys I felt good about. I was a big Mike Williams guy. I thought Allen Robinson was going to turn it around.
That's the one that got me too.
Jonathan, everyone thought Jonathan Taylor, but yeah, there's just a lot of narratives I was buying into. Michael Pittman, things that just have not panned out. Cortland Sutton, you name it. I was like, I missed on like every guy. I was pretty like.
It sounded a lot like you listened to some other very good podcast that we both listened to.
Yeah,
guys.
I listened to a couple. I also love John Hansen, the fantasy guru.
He's good too.
Between those podcasts, a lot of times they disagree with each other, but it's cool to like hear different points of view and then kind of make your own convictions about things. But yeah, a lot of those guys I just dropped were definitely footballers.
Those were my guys. Those were ballers, my guys, and I love those guys as well. But I was a big Allen Robinson guy. I thought if he could do, a fraction of what he's done elsewhere there, with the passing volume in Los Angeles, he could do it.
And then that entire offense just like implodes, Cooper Kupp's still doing well, but like everything else, even Stafford, I don't know, man. It's just been rough.
I don't think he's been a bright spot, but that's just because the ball has been thrown so close to the line of scrimmage. So,
and what is the Rams are still doing okay in terms of their NFL record, right? Like that.
Yeah, they're still in it. I don't know what their actual record is, but their whole division's looking pretty good.
They're in the NFC West, so you got the Seahawks are at the top of that division at 5-3 right now with Geno freaking Smith as their quarterback, and then you got the Niners 4-4 who now have McCaffrey. The Rams are at 3-4, so they actually are struggling a little bit.
Right.
And you got the Cardinals biting at man. That's some division, huh?
That's a tough division. I mean, you look at the NFC East and you could say pretty much the same thing, but that's a tough go. You talked about Cooper Kupp still getting his, and I think he was the lone bright spot on this next matchup, which we're looking at, which was the Anthony versus the Joey G, the real estate your name versus the I love you Eli's. Joey G getting his first win, like we said before. So DJ Moore turning it around, the Travis Etienne breakout, and Geno.
What's going on, man? What's up with that box score? So Joey.
I'm actually just going to jump right into it too. I think there was some other players. I think a lot of his teams did really well, and like we touched upon it too. Joey G making some moves so far to better his team, even at the bottom.
Yeah, so ETN is starting to go into beast mode. DJ Moore, surprisingly, had a big week, right?
Well, a lot of targets were vacated over the last couple weeks.
Yeah. Nice. This is the new week. Okay.
Yeah, and then you get 21 points from your kicker. You usually do okay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember seeing that and be like, oh man, you gotta love when that happens, right? Especially if you're not on the receiving end of it.
Yep.